about what you did,
Oh, the song?
the song and.
We were both living in the Bay Area. You were doing the Western Division at that point?
Westfield, yeah.
Yes, Westfield. And, I got a call, we saw each other off and on, and I got a call one day, and he goes, "We need to write a new YMCA theme song." And that was that was 30 years ago. And I was at the peak of my career at that point, and so I came over to his house, and what was the couple that was there with us?
The Eddies.
Eddie's.
Bob and Paula Eddy.
Okay, Bob, Paul, and Eddie, and between the five of us, we had to go through a case of wine that night. But we had an old upright in his living room, and they had put up these charts. What are those things called? Flip charts. So we read out all the attributes of the YMCA, and they were filled with these attributes of the YMCA, and we wrote this song over several hours. And then I brought it back and had it calligraphy into this sheet of paper, which they have framed in their living room. And then we went to Orlando. That particular, Jerry and I were talking about that earlier, Susie, that we had 2,000, 3,000 directors singing this in rounds from all over the country. And then it ended up becoming the new YMCA theme song.
Yeah.
And we actually wrote out copyright stuff and gave the song to the Y so no one could ever collect royalties on it, or no one could ever have any ownership of it.
Yeah.
And that was in
85, 86.
85,
86.
86?
Can you sing it?
We are the YMCA. Na, na, na,
Reaching
na,
out and
na,
making
na.
Remember that?
That's important, I didn't like as well.
Building body, spirit, and mind. And then you go in the verse. Da, 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 da. So we had to write it where you could sing in rounds around campfires.
I think I heard that
Got
from Village
overtaken
People.
by that.
Sandy was going to tell us.
Very good, yeah. I was looking to Sandy to just ask her if things were as wild, a little bit later in the 80s and maybe into the 90s, as they obviously were, 69, 70, 71 in that period.
It's delighting in the fact that I feel so young in this group. I don't need to tell a story.
Thank you so much.
I just am reveling in the fact that I'm the youngster in the group. Mike was kind enough to hire me, and Mike has been a huge influence in my life, and I constantly keep in touch with him throughout my career. And I've been in the Y 29 years.
Wow.
So it's crazy,
Wow,
right?
you're young.
Crazy to think, I know, crazy to think about. But two things that, my two Richardson stories really are behind the scenes. My husband worked for the town North Y. So we were both single, without kids when we moved to Texas, and our whole friendship and life was all about this Y. And when I was here, we were running, now it's a long time ago, so I'm sure it's a lot more than what it actually was, but I'll say 300 backyard pools. And it was before cell phones, and Mike was adamant about you have to go out and inspect every pool at some time during that 2-week session. You have to see it, you have to know it's safe, you have to know what's going on there. So I was spending my day out and about, and I was trying to be a good wife and cooking dinner, and asked my husband, we have this one night that we will forever remember. I'm not a cook, never have been, never was. Tried to cook dinner and got a call on the landline, problem in the pool, turned everything off, came to Richardson, took care of the problem, went back home, tried to start dinner again. He got a call, problem at one of the sports fields, he left. Well, this dinner was started and stopped for 6 hours. We finally sat down and he tried to eat it, took one bite and didn't say anything, and I ate it and spit it out, and he said, oh, thank God. And I said, so if we're gonna be in this work, I'm never gonna try this again. He goes, great. So for me, it really was about, we really understood each other's strengths. And then, I don't know how many people know, but I was hired as the CEO in San Antonio, and the HR director grew up in Richardson. So we were talking about 2 months on the job, and she said, Sandy, tell me again, when did you work at the Richardson Y? So I told her the time frame, and she said, I was in day camp then. And I said, did you go lake with the canoe? She said, yes. And I was in that canoe that flipped over, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that day. And it was before we had to wear life jackets.
Yeah.
And there was no lifeguards posted, and so very, very small world. So those are my two big Richardson stories.
Well, and I have
Yeah.
one of it, that reminded me of why the real need to get Sandy in here. And
Because of Wise and Sally made her really, the adjustment is so much easier. Because I was never here working.
I'd like to say something about Y families. We didn't have a facility at the YMCA, but other than the Greenville Avenue gym, and but you could go to Ron or Sally's house if you wanted to, and I always did. And of course we had many meetings in Jim and Carlene's house in our High Y Club. So I think I learned a lot from those two experiences about just family life and optimistic family life, and family life as an enterprise and a vocation, I guess you'd say. And there was in both those houses there was just a lot of energy and excitement, and it was created by parents for kids. You could feel it, you could see it. I learned a lot about that. I mean, Ron and Sally's dog was even smart. I mean, his name was Snoopy.
Roxanne.
Well, Roxanne, that's it. And the oldest boy used to do Snoopy poems that Sally would write down for him. But at any rate, it was in both those cases just a lot of vitality and enterprise about those families. And I remember that still very vividly.
I mean, that's a great share, I think, to talk
Yeah.
about that.
The other
Thanks for
thing
bringing that
about-
up. Go ahead.
No,
I'm done.
I'll interrupt.
Believe it or not.
Was, my first 7 years in the Y didn't have a facility.
yeah,
And I remember, we were on the cusp of building this building. We had 6 program directors.
That's right. Six
program directors in one of the biggest programs in the Dallas YMCA. And we didn't have a building, didn't have a pool.
But yet we were raising $100,000, I remember that.
And raising about half of our budget, we were raising
Sustaining.
the sustaining membership program. The volunteers were, and I remember somebody, it was the guy from the Savings and Loan, Wayne Lowe last night, he was there. He said, and Jim Boley and I were talking about that, and Wayne Lowe says, and I remember you told us never to raise money over the telephone.
Yeah.
And he said, we had to go and
Face to
eyeball
face.
people
Yeah.
to tell them
Face to
about the
face.
Y. And I said, you remember that? He said, oh yeah, you guys said we could not call people on the phone to raise money. And that Jim Boley, he made cold calls.
Yeah.
And he became door to door, and on people he didn't know. And he'd come by the Y and hit cards and whatever was left up there, and he'd go out for the evening. Now, a lot of people don't know that he worked his way through college and dental school selling Bibles.
Selling what?
Bibles, door to door.
wow.
And so he took that salesman experience and went out and became the top fundraiser in the Richardson YMCA. Boley, B-O-L-E-Y, Jim Boley, yeah. You're thinking Charlie Boyle was the original, in fact, the first one was a Charlie
Jim
Boyle.
was there last night.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim Boley was there last night. He's an orthodontist who retired.
There was one time that this little place we were here raised more money than any other in
the Dallas.
Dallas,
Yeah.
of the whole fund.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And did it without a building.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
you just think about
Well,
it.
yeah.
All the
Sally was
resources
down
went
right
right
into
into,
stuff.
we paid our staff so high that we couldn't
Yeah.
afford a building.
The,
You all remember that.
That was good, yeah.
They
Yeah.
got $15 a week.
Yeah, didn't Harrison talk about it last week?
Yeah.
There's a lot
lot of things I didn't get to last night, but but Gordy was giving me the stink eye, and I was just like, but I apologize if I went too long, and I was gonna be quiet today, but went too long. But for those of us, I don't feel like I went too long. For those who are here, yeah, probably too.
No.
But anyway, but that was one that I skipped, was the building. Because we've got a story of departures here. When I became the branch executive, Ed left, this building was under construction, okay? And it started with the pool. And as I recall it, the pool was supposed to be finished in like March or April. And it took the entire summer to finish the pool. And there was two guys, one guy and his son. We called him Mo and his son Lasses, because laying the tile took molasses forever to finish the tile. And the pool opened in the fall, which we couldn't use it. It was is it still heated? Jeff, is the pool still heated?
No.
Well, it was heated at the time, and we kind of had some wind fences, to kind of keep the thing from going. And then John Milburn showed up, because Ed had hired John Milburn from George Williams College, graduate, to come down. So we had 6 program directors and all this program going before we even had a building. It was amazing.
I remember day camp for swimming lessons, we'd take the kids to Vickery Park.
Vickery Park.
Yeah.
Which, Mike, I think a lot of people don't know, but it was Vickery Park, water came from that same glacier in Colorado. Because you go, okay, kids, come on in, and then when you're done, you go, okay, everybody out of the pool.
Guys, real quick, we're about to lose the videographer. Since we are using this as kind of a document, if we can just go around the room real quick, so we have on camera, really your name and just real quick, your name and
When you were here.
when you were here. So just so that we can have that on camera.
Gotta get my calculator out.
Right. If we could just start right there, that'd be great.
Start with Jerry James.
Jerry James, let's stop and think, 1972 to 75, I think, something like that.
Jerry Harrelson, 1971 to 1977.
Sandy Miranda, 1985 to 89.
Herb Reed,
Lifetime.
forever.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Rawls, 1963 to 1978.
Ron Kinnaman, 63 to 69.
Sally Kinman, I lived with him.
More than that.
Susie Harrelson, spouse.
With Jerry.
Mike Dungan, 1984 to 1990.
Walter King, I've been a volunteer from 1980 on.
Doug Goodfellow, 1977 to 1980.
Jim Rawls, volunteer from 63 till, maybe early 80s, something like that.
Rosie Steffen, 1960, the late 1960s to today.
Awesome.
X-Men.
Ed Ellis, 1965 to 67, and then 69 to 73.
Grace Taylor, I'm a guest of Ed's.
Lowell Tuttle, 63 to 70.
Blood Bonnet, also known as Fred Zeiler, 63 to 69.
Bob Fleming, 1963 to 1969.
Pat Calshaw, 63 to about 72.
Lawrence Tuttle, I'm not sure when I started, stopped around 1970, but it is about 66 to 73.
Spencer Brewer, 1963 to 1972.
Jeff Thomas, 2002 to 2005.
Yes.
And then, 2000, and then 2008 to 2013.
Story good.
Yeah.
is the company that did the video that we watched last night.
Exactly.
Which
Great job.
Yeah.
You're gonna edit some of this out, right?
Yeah.
This is.